I just got home to 2 different floor arrangements from 2 different guys. Is either one of them from the guy that I slept with and told all my friends about? No!
Hey, Clint just likes sending flowers. Welcome back. Beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Lurkadowski here of thebestpoliticalshow.com, and we are going to be going live for the next 2 hours talking about all the crazy, wild news developing right now. As, of course, there's a major Tucker Carlson NEPHILIM story as there's an alien invasion on the southern border of the United States, as Joe Biden is soon about to make some major moves about that, as Donald Trump is raising a lot of money for his campaign, as a tribe just got internet, and you will not believe what happened to them next, as there's also so many different stories that we can't talk about on this particular program. There's AI psychosis, plus a lot more. And we're going to be talking about it for the next 2 hours, all here on this independent media broadcast. So we would ask you guys to share this broadcast with your friends and family members. It's more imperative than ever since we face a major kind of uphill battle with the Google YouTube algorithm. Your support really does mean a lot. And it's one of the reasons why our videos are still seen, mainly because of you guys getting them out there, sharing them, and you guys get to also be a part of the conversation. One easy way for you guys to do that is to sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com, our own platform with our own special reports. We also use this as a platform to spread nature hikes all throughout the United States. And by becoming a member, you get the ability to call in to the show and be a part of it. You could show us whatever you want. You could ask us whatever you want. You could be the person, a part of that conversation, as long as you figure out your settings. All now just by simply signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com, going on the Telegram group, and letting me know you want to call in, and we will be going to you in about an hour and a half from now. Another way to participate in the conversation is through mysuperchat.com, as your super chats actually get to show up on a screen, and there's only a 3% service charge on mysuperchat.com, not a 30% one like there is on YouTube. So check out mysuperchat.com, as of course we will be going through all the chats throughout the conversation. Joining us for today's conversation is Jack I'm sorry, I'm horrible with
Zach Voorhees.
Zach Voorhees?
Voorhees.
Voorhees.
Like Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th.
I'm dyslexic and I'm Polish. Zach, apologies. Who are you for the people who don't know you?
Hi, my name is Zach Voorhees. This is going live on YouTube, right?
We are already live on YouTube right now.
So maybe you already know who I am. I want to make sure this is safe for YouTube brand management. So I am a self-appointed activist and a former YouTube and Google employee. I'm here to talk about AI and some other current events, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, this is like a perfect time for you to come in because there's a lot of crazy news regarding the AI coming out right now, and we probably will have to save the kind of meat of today's conversation for the other platform, since the platform that we're on was, whistleblowed by someone here in this room. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Clint, those are nice flowers you sent.
Yeah, man. Look, these hoes ain't loyal. What can I say? Anyways, at Liberty Lock Pod on X, if you want to support my work, you can subscribe there. I'll follow you back. Almost 140,000 of you savages. Thank you guys so much. Liberty Lockdown is the flagship. Please do subscribe to that wherever you find your podcasts, YouTube as well. And I also do Tower Gang, which you should never watch.
Tower Gang. Yeah.
Ian is here, kidnapped, forced to eat red meat and lift weights.
It was delicious. I'm back into meat after the cleanse. I was after like a 10-day, 12-day, barely ate anything, as you can tell if you look at my arms. And finally ate some beef today for the first time. What a life. Man, I'm energized. Let's go.
Damn right.
Steph,
we are change, pushing the buttons.
All right, let's just get into it because there's so many different stories happening right now, and I think we definitely shouldn't be wasting any time. As of course, I think the major story that captivated me the most today is this latest development from Tucker Carlson that came out and said that insiders are insinuating to him that there's many such cases of aliens that are more likely NEPHILIM. Yes, you heard that correctly. I think this is important to talk about because this is something that I personally had a conversation with Tucker Tucker Carlson about on the TP USA stage, as he's been kind of hinting to larger spiritual warfares going on right now that people have been talking about for many centuries now. He also kind of alludes to the fact that after the dropping of the nuclear bomb, the conversations kind of ceased. They kind of stopped, and he kind of aligns more with all the individuals before this dropping of the nuclear bomb when it comes to these larger notions of these larger creatures, entities, spiritual kind of creatures out there, providing us with some very fascinating things to kind of think about, to speculate on. But here's a short clip from Tucker Carlson himself explaining what he believes to be going on in this world.
But yeah, I would bet my house on it. At least some of it is. I mean, I'm sure some of it's like advanced technology that we possess. The U.S. government clearly does possess a lot of technology that is not publicly known about or available or only in fragments. I mean, that's clearly true. You've done a lot on this. I mean, that's why I first reached out to you, because you did such an amazing segment on that. I was like shocked by it, how great it was. That's why I'm sitting here. So you know all this. And it's clearly that's part of it, but there are other things that are clearly not, that baffle the U.S. government. Here's what I'm really surprised by, and I've actually stopped gathering string on, as we say in reporting, stopped gathering string in this, gathering information, because I'm satisfied that I know enough, and I don't really want to know that much more. Because what I think I know is, this doesn't help me at all to know that. So that's the conclusion I've reached. I'm usually pretty curious. I've stopped being curious about this because I don't want to know anymore. But
you truly don't want to know anymore about it.
I think I know. I think I know what's up. So I can't prove it, so probably not going to articulate it, but I think I know what's up, yeah.
Now, if there's ever a journalist that has sources, that has people coming to them within government, it's probably the former #1 news anchor in all of America that had the cojones and the balls to stand up against the Biden administration, the Trump administration, the Obama administration, and actually call out a lot of the bigger psyops as they were happening, to call out the real kind of power structure. Tucker Carlson has been extremely brave in his reporting. This definitely seems, in my opinion, the last kind of frontier, the last kind of step to delve into a lot of these kind of supernatural topics that, according to Tucker Carlson, the elites really don't want you knowing or understanding anything about. What do you guys make of this conversation? Because I think it's fascinating, but what do you think of Tucker's take on it yourselves?
He goes on to say that he believes, now correct me if I'm wrong, you actually watched it earlier and kind of saw it twice because we watched it before the show, that the UFOs and these aliens are NEPHILIM. But can you explain what that means? What is that?
Well, for the record,
Clint's a Nephilim.
Yeah, I am a Nephilim, but also for the record, I did not know even what the word was until about a year ago. My buddy Top Lobster, who's absolutely obsessed with the Nephilim, he has a show called Nephilim Death Squad. Him and Raven, they talk about the Nephilim all the time. What the Nephilim are...
We had them on the show here talking about the Nephilim, and then I think that was our biggest show.
Yeah,
I think we had 9,000 viewers watching live on that.
It was big time.
It was an interesting conversation because we were also able to tie it into Tucker Carlson that's been dropping little hints about this for a very long time.
Right. So what it is from the Bible. Apparently, there's stories of these giants that are the offspring of angels that have fallen to earth and human beings, and that's what the Nephilim are. It was an entire race of people. Now, I have, for the longest time, thought it was ridiculous, laughable even, and it was very jarring for me to hear Tucker Carlson, a guy who I've come to respect a lot over the past few years, talking about this as if he's fairly confident that it's accurate. Now, let's keep in mind, his sources are a handful of people that he won't name that he believes would know. That is tenuous at best. As much as I respect Tucker Carlson, that I'm going to need more before I believe that instead of these being UFOs, they are in fact fallen angels that have reproduced with human beings.
Have you ever seen the Reddit subreddit Homo Gigantus?
No.
Yeah, there's a whole subreddit where they've archived all of this pictures of giant humans and their bones. Actually, it's mostly their bones that they've dug up.
I've seen posts on X about it, but I haven't dug deeper.
Yeah. Well, Tucker's kind of argument here is that kind of every ancient religion has referred to these type of creatures, including Native Americans, a lot of Mesopotamian civilizations, and for some reason we kind of stopped talking about them altogether. Right. There are different kind of subsects of human beings that have existed on this earth that were allegedly eliminated, but what's this kind of larger kind of spiritual connection here, as of course he kind of brings everything back to Christianity and his following of Christ and his following of Jesus. So that to me is the biggest question that I have.
When I think of Nephilim, my first thing I think is that before the flood, 12,800 years ago, before the fall of Atlantis and everything, there were humans that had extremely good nutrition. They probably grew to be 6.5 feet tall, kind of like where we're at now. And then the flood happened, and everybody's eating grass and dirt, and they're basically grow to be like 4'8" and 4'9", and they're looking up at these 6'12". So some of these giants survived the flood with ancient technology. They probably had hot air balloons. They had hang gliders. You know, the angels from the Bible. They had hang gliders. That's what they were. They weren't actual wings coming out of their bodies. Yeah, they were Hamas. And they could fly, they could hang glide in, and they would drop like boiling oil on the ground. They're like, they're shooting fireballs. And like, no, they're just lighting oil on fire. And then, so there's this thing called the Vimana, which is this ancient Hindu flying platform that was connected to balloons or some sort of flying platform that the Sultan or the king would fly on. And so maybe they came crashing down literally to earth, and the story goes they fell from heaven, and then they started mating with the 4'11" people and producing, 5'7" people or 6 foot people. But now I'm wondering, like, did they have neural net? Did they have some advanced technology where, like, if I was a caveman, I looked at it, I'd be like, you are an alien. You have connection to God. How do you know what that other guy's thinking? How can you coordinate without saying a word? And then maybe they had really advanced tech, but that's just like
there
fantasy.
are some scientists that do believe that humanity has gone through extinction level events that has kind of put them back, rewinded them from the kind of advancements that they made before. So there is a kind of thinking that yes, human beings were very advanced, and then whether it was a natural phenomenon or them blowing themselves up, had to restart all over again in the kind of stone age that they put themselves in, or naturally kind of occurred because of a meteor or a kind of deep freeze that happened to them as well.
There's really compelling evidence that the Younger Dryas period, 12,000 years ago, did in fact divide kind of the human experience. But I've never seen any evidence, and granted, yes, it would have been 15,000 years old or so. So the expectation that there would be evidence is probably ridiculous. But if they were as advanced as us, you would think that there would be some evidence of really advanced technology that we would find in deep underground. And as far as I've seen, we haven't. So that's the only reason. I mean, I guess a lot of people say like, oh, the pyramids are a good example because how could they have possibly created them that long ago without advanced technology that we're not privy to today? It's like, okay, it's a compelling argument, but like I would still expect that we would see some evidence of machinery. And I guess the argument is, well, it's not that they had advanced technology in the form of machines, but rather they were more in tune with spiritual like powers. And if that's the case, maybe so. I don't know.
Or they made everything out of microplastics, and those microplastics evaporated into the soil and the earth and made
they
oil.
Went directly into our balls.
Like they don't have any megaliths like Hoover Dam. Like there's nothing like a skyscraper left over. There's the pyramid, which is just basically a pile of rubble on top of the King's Chamber but then you see the King's Chamber made out of granite. Like they were able to cut and dig really well. They had good cutting technology.
They did amazing things given the technology that we believe they had at that time. But there are engineers that say today that yes, if you with enough slave power and also with levers, pulleys, things like that, you could accomplish it if you were dedicated to it. And if they were, then they could have. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
But let's just say there was an extinction level event, right? Like a nuclear, holocaust that happened
Solar
everywhere.
micronova.
Yeah, that destroyed everything. There wouldn't be anything left over from that kind of apocalypse, and therefore the few human beings that would survive would have to kind of go under, live in caves, and then restart everything themselves with not a lot of knowledge, not a lot of resources, not a lot of abilities, and would have to essentially start living off the land and start all over again.
But we do see evidence of bones and things of that nature of prehistoric life that existed after the Younger Dryas, which was an ice age period. So I would expect that if I'm able to see mammoths and things like that, I would probably be able to see some of the advanced technology, and like the evidence of there actually being advanced technology tools or anything like that is fleeting, to put it mildly. There's very, very little.
Well, according to Tucker Carlson, the government has this kind of advanced technology, and
Right.
that his larger thesis here, what he believes that he's convinced of after his kind of research of him talking to a lot of probably high-level government sources, is that the government is also trying to, quote, convince the population that the supernatural is not real, and that is because allegedly, according to Tucker, they're in bed with dark spiritual forces.
Right.
And if you look at what's happening in our society, a lot of people are becoming godless. A lot of us are becoming prone to impulses. A lot of us are becoming further and further away from not just God, but from spirit and from anything that is anything deeper than the kind of superficial microplastic Chinese slave-made bullcrap all around us.
Can you tell me what was the implication of Tucker saying that everyone kind of believed this before Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then afterwards they didn't? Is he implying that the spirits left or they arrived during that period? What is he saying?
I
Do you
mean,
know?
from my, I don't because I'm not him.
No, I know,
but
but,
from
like, what was your read?
my understanding of it is that those kind of larger destructive actions opened up portals to these larger kind of demonic evil entities.
That's wild.
That allowed them to be more pervasive, especially by committing such a horrendous, horrible, negative, dark act on humanity, wiping out hundreds of thousands of people, which the Daily Wire approves of, which is freaking ridiculous.
A lot of people approve of it. It's nuts.
It's evil. It was demonic, in my opinion, to blow up civilian populations during a time of war. I don't care how you try to rectify it. It was absolutely evil. And a lot of people believe that through that action, through that evil, they opened up pathways and doorways to these evil entities to have more prevalence in our lives.
Okay, well that's a fair argument.
You're saying that like mass murder will retract our connection to God, or that will confuse us into believing like these extra dimensional entities and start to think that they're God when they're just actual entities? Like, does it actually confuse the spirit? I've never participated in mass murder that I know of. I know that my government has
hope
done
not.
things, but like, and I pay taxes to that government.
That you know of.
Yeah, that I know of. I mean, the Native Americans, that was kind of a mass murder.
You would know, Ian. I'm confident.
And like the Native Americans were deeply spiritual. They had stargates where they'd like have areas that they would stand inside of these circles where they could astrally project their consciousness, apparently. And I think the pyramids also were known to be astral projection chambers where they'd get in these sarcophagi and cover themselves up in salt water, like sensory deprivation tanks, and then hit it with a vibration. They'd hum, and then they'd leave their bodies spiritually. And then we came with our guns, germs, and steel, and rely on our electricity. I bet it's electricity. I bet electricity's been knocking us away from God.
Well, everything is energy. Everything is kind of there, but not there. We could perceive some of it, but not all of it. So there are multiple dimensions to our current reality that we still don't have a big kind of understanding and basis to. So this is why I think his interpretation is so fascinating, because it does kind of shed a light to a lot of the things that science can't kind of explain. A lot of the kind of deeper stuff, a lot of the kind of more stuff that implicates more of a karmic, more of an energetic, more of a spiritual existence that we have on this world, rather than this kind of atheistic kind of viewpoint that we are just kind of monkeys here.
Well, I think Ian's point is well taken, that like, yeah, with the advent of electricity, we have in fact fallen away from God on net. However, it has also created the greatest boom of innovation, wealth creation, and ultimately like decreased human suffering. So I think that opens up an entirely new paradox that you would have to think about, is like, can you be close to God while also having material wealth? And there's passages in the Bible about that, and I think it's a fascinating thought process.
I'll ask you straight up, Zach. Like, do you think that AI is like a creation of a new sort of electrical God?
It's a hyper intelligent exotic life form, and
That sounds like God to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like God, but I don't want to say it's like God, but it's kind of like God, especially since as the AI models get larger, they all start converging to similar answers. So it's like we're seeing glimpses of like a godlike intelligence, and we'll have to see what happens when we hit the saturation point on computational limits of what AI can generate, and it's going to be wild.
Do you think that's Elon says it's by next year? Do you agree with his assessment?
I mean, I think AGI is arguably already kind of here now.
Okay.
With the glimpses. I use AI all the time to program, and it's wild. And so it's on a spectrum,
Sure.
right? And so the start of the singularity, if you've seen that, read that book and know the material, is that the singularity starts when the AI
Is that Kurzweil?
Yeah, Kurzweil is when the AI start writing their own software. And what the NVIDIA guy came out and he said that, oh yeah, our chips are now being designed by artificial intelligence. I've got my own custom AI coder program. It's a front end to this thing called AiderChat, and I've gone from programming most of the time to intention-based programming, where you tell it what you want to do, and then the AI implements it across different files, and then that's usually how my flow goes now. So I think we're kind of already there. We're getting towards AGI, the singularity. We're already on the doorstep, and by next year, it's going to be absolutely wild.
I have a really important question for you, because kind of like the hallmark of life is the capacity to reproduce. And what you're describing, if you can program your own code and kind of make yourself obsolete, creating the new iteration of yourself, is that not a form of reproduction? So could we not say that, in fact, this technology has already come to life almost? I know I'm stretching here.
Yeah, right. I mean, how do you define reproduction? Like biological reproduction? I mean, AI can copy itself. Like, is a virus, a life form, kind of like those barriers break down. But if you try to view this thing that's happening through the lens of, well, what does it mean to be alive as a human, right? You're going to miss like a whole lot of stuff that's going on. Like functionally, it's a very intelligent thing. It's going to keep on getting better. It can invent its own language and talk to itself. And we don't really have a control that well over it.
I delineate it as not life, but sentient. Like this AI seems to be sentient, and God seems to be sentient, though not alive. Like living is like this animal, plant. We know what living things are. So like these sentient creatures that we're building, and I'm concerned like if the power goes out, then they won't exist. But now we're looking at solid state vacuum electricity, where they're tapping the vacuum. Like Nassim Haramein is legit going steamrolling ahead on this, tapping the vacuum to create a permanent state of electrical feasibility or conductivity, where like the AI can never be turned off. And that's like, have we created another God, or has it created itself?
Right. I was at Burning Man with Nassim Haramein. We should invite him on the show. He would be great to have here to kind of get into the weeds with this conversation, because I feel like we could get into so many different rabbit holes just through this kind of start by Tucker Carlson. As of course, I also found what he said here very fascinating. We're going to play another clip of this and then go off of it.
Aren't good at detail. Okay, that's just true. But they are good at themes. They're good at themes. Like, they remember the guy's fat. He may have been 400 pounds. He may have been 280. He was fat. Like, if everyone says the guy was fat, he was fat. Like, that's what we do. We can't say that. And so if everybody you talk to is saying, oh, this is really upsetting, I don't know what this means, but here's what I know. Here's what I heard someone say. I was in a meeting, or here's what, you know what I mean? It was that kind of stuff. And I didn't talk to anybody in the UFO community. I'm not even sure what that is. I know I don't trust I don't trust anybody, actually. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my job to trust people, so it's my job to assess whether what they're saying is right or not. So I talked to people who I thought had firsthand knowledge, and I talked to a number of them. And then I was like, whoa, I'm out. Because I don't need to go farther than that. I mean, I think that the real struggles are unseen. That is absolutely a part of Christian theology. I didn't fully appreciate it at all. It's a part of every theology. In fact, it is theology. That is theology. The belief that the real struggles are in the spiritual realm. That has been a constant belief since the beginning of history, recorded history. Everybody has thought that, except us in the West, since 1945. I can't say that enough. So once you get perspective on this question, you're like, okay, that may sound crazy to someone who thinks buying shit on Amazon is the meaning of life, but to every other person in the world, we may disagree about what the truth is, I'm sure we will, but we will never disagree with the fact that there's a lot of shit going on that we cannot see or measure with our senses. That is.
Tucker also then kind of goes on and talks about disinformation programs, how CIA officials lie and they spread a lot of disinformation as well, and how he knows exactly what it is since he was also kind of a part of that industry for quite a while. I just want to shout out Sean Ryan, because this was from the Sean Ryan podcast, and he's the one that was interviewing Tucker Carlson and getting into these very important topics here.
Open invite, Sean.
Yeah, Sean Ryan also invited here on this show whenever anyone of these guys are in Miami, of course. But it would be awesome to of course, converse and deeply go into more of it.
the CIA has worked on remote viewing, as far as I know. Maybe you know more about the actual
they
programs.
did the Men Who Stare at Goats. They did MK Ultra. They did a lot of kind of all that hippy dippy stuff that you see and what the bleep do you know. All of that has been kind of tested, thoroughly by the Central Intelligence agencies that were literally trying to use it for their own kind of maniacal
The
purposes.
CIA, was it founded in 1946? Is that right?
It's a spin-off, so I think it started in the early 1900s, but it's
It's
under a different name.
Yeah, they were called something else during kind of World War II, and after World War II, they kind of became the Central Intelligence Agency.
World War II happens, the Allies win the war and basically get carte blanche to be like, let's create a new world government. Let's make a liberal economic order. We'll put American military bases all over the place, minus the Soviet bloc, but we've pretty much got control. Now let's wipe out everyone's belief in spirit. Let's just diminish everyone's belief in God because we're going to focus on that stuff in secret.
I think
1941 was the office of the Coordinator of Information, and that was kind of the start of it. And then we had the Office of Strategic
OSS
Services,
is what I was thinking of.
and then the Strategic Service Unit, and then that later became the Central Intelligence Agency in 1946, right after those nuclear bombs went off in Japan.
Well, I think an interesting thing or thought experiment is like everyone just kind of takes on face value that we won the Cold War and that we defeated communism. But what Ian's describing is getting away from all religion. That is a fundamental tenet of communism too. So it's like, did we actually win, or did we adopt their ideology and then just repackage it under this liberal economic world order? And to that, I am not certain what the answer is.
It seems like we've adopted like a totalitarian mind bent with the liberal economic order. It was like, we are going to control the world with our way.
Right.
No matter how, we'll call it democracy. We'll call it it wasn't really a republic anymore at that point. It was like the global monarchy and banking systems kind of used the United States as a spearhead.
But the truth of it, though, is like there's been empires that are very much religious in nature, and they've been brutal to people too. So I think at the end of the day, it's not about necessarily the ideology as much as it is the act. The act is conquest. Conquest isn't good. So I think that's the thing that I push back against most is like, whatever you're espousing, I'm not interested in global conquest. I reject your desire to do so, even if you are, walking with Jesus in your own mind. Like, I don't want you to dictate terms to me. And I think in this void, and I've talked about this a lot on Liberty Lockdown, but like in this religious void, Americans by and large, particularly Democrat voters, because they tend to be the more atheistic, they have found themselves globbing on to any sort of political leader as a god. Barack Obama is a good example of that. Anthony Fauci is a fantastic example of that. In a period of darkness, just seeking out some sort of scion of truth, science, the truth. I am Anthony Fauci. Like that, I think that it's true that when people don't have God in their life, they do tend to go for that stuff.
Is that so? Like, does anyone think that's interesting that we're talking about like this new world religion that's going to come on, then all of a sudden descends in the news that we have maybe there's aliens. Do you think there's a connection between this sort of prophesized new world religion and this sort of alien disclosure that's going on? Do you think there could be a convergence?
It's possible. I mean, it could fill that void for sure.
Yeah, I think there's this stuff called talking plasma where they'll take base stations of lasers and they'll triangulate these lasers into a point in the sky and it'll create a ball of plasma that they move around like a laser pointer, and you can teleport sound through it. And you can, I don't know how advanced the technology is, but like military times, talking plasma, if you want to read about it. I imagine they can make imagery as well, or that's getting to the point where they're going to be able to project images of God-like things in the sky and make people believe that there is a God above you and it's coming to communicate with you now, and these are the aliens, are the gods. But that doesn't mean that they aren't also real and we're just creating like a hyper synthetic version of it to try and manipulate people.
That could be the psyop within the psyop.
True, it could be. What I find fascinating is that Ian, of all people, I would expect to be more open to the supernatural explanation of these things, and you seem to be very dedicated to finding some sort of man-made answer for it. Why do you think that is?
I've always been super logical. If I don't have proof, don't waste my time with it. And then I got a little more open-minded in my mid-20s. Also, like I smoked DMT, vaped it, and peered through the veil and saw the three entities, the woman waving me towards her, the two guys, these balls of energy, these creatures, these people that were like, and so it wasn't imagination. I mean, it could have been all fake, could have been just purely made up, but I wasn't like choosing to do this stuff.
Right.
And I've heard God's voice so much now. If you communicate, if you think, what should I do, God? It responds to you. Before you even ask the question, it'll respond to you with the answer. So I believe that stuff's real, but I also understand the deviousness of human nature, and I will not set that aside until I can prove that it's not human deviousness.
But can you ever be truly religious without faith? Because the ask is that you have to take that leap.
And having faith, and once you have faith, everything kind of aligns and everything kind of shows up for you in these kind of synchronistic, magical ways. And unless you have faith, you won't actually be on that path. You won't actually see the things that you're supposed to see.
And for the record, I'm basically devil's advocating this because I am not a very religious person myself. In fact, I'm much more aligned with you in terms of always seeking logic and rational explanations for everything.
See, I'm the hippy-dippy one here. I'm hippier than all of you guys probably combined here.
I'm not really religious. I don't believe these man-made religions. I think they're almost all of them have been created by governments or manipulated by governments to control people. But I believe God is real and that they've taken that concept and they've taught you how to think about it. And when it's just there, it's vibrating. It's these subatomic spinning charges that are all creating this vibrational essence that can make sounds in your consciousness.
This is what I've always aligned with, is not the structural religions, but rather that it is almost certainly being used as power plays. And but I do believe in a spiritual realm. I'm not convinced about an afterlife per se. But I tend to align with what you're saying.
I disagree with both of you guys. The spirit world is absolutely real. I think your belief absolutely matters. Your thoughts absolutely do matter. I think there's a lot of things, including the placebo effect, a lot of things, especially when it comes to the kind of chemical changing of holy water. There's a lot of things that we cannot explain. And I think, having faith isn't a wrong thing. And scientifically speaking, the people who do have faith usually do live more fulfilling lives, usually live happier lives. Usually are also healthier individuals, and that could be because of scientific explanations of communities and people being there for each other. But regardless of it, I do find a power towards belief and spirit that can't really even be quantified by science, that you can't understand until you are kind of a true believer yourself. But that's just my perspective. I understand yours, but I would just be careful with mixing in psychedelics with your perspective.
I believe that the power of faith is super healing. It can be, but when faith gets twisted into believe my version of the story, for instance, that a spirit can impregnate a woman, that is hard for me to believe, and I can't just have faith that, okay, there's no evidence. God, at least I can look through a radio telescope at the cosmic microwave background radiation, and I see what looks like a universal neural net.
Most people are wrong anyways. So whatever you believe is what you need in that moment, and that belief changes over time. That's why it's called a journey. You're going to evolve over time, and each person's at a different place where a certain truth is a truth for them in that moment. But at the end of the day, all of those truths are only merit that to the person who's been through it themselves and can be yeah, that's a truth for me. It's experimental. It's experimental. It's you have to go through that journey, and that's how you're going to be in that place. You can't just say, oh, I read it in a book. The reason why Luke believes that there's the synchronicities is because most probably he has experienced synchronicities. And the reason that you don't believe that is because you might not have experienced that yourself, or maybe you have. So different people are going to have different views depending on where they are in their journeys.
That's how it was.
And none of them are all right or wrong. We really don't know. We don't know just as much as we don't know what happened how many plus years ago with the chronology of this planet and the Earth. And is it a planet? Is it not a planet? There's so many different truths out there, and so many different people have that confusion. All of that brings everyone to mixing what's the truth actually is. So there is no point in arguing. It's really just kind of going within and being where do I feel right now, and what can I do to make this a better experience for me and my brothers and sisters and the people around me and my family and the people I see every single day.
I think it is important, though, to discuss this because, first off, I do believe in objective truth. So I think that's the hardest part I have with just accepting, well, everybody's on their own journey. Okay, well, what if your journey says that, you should be the dictator of the planet? It's well, I reject your journey, bro. So it's you have to have these conversations still. But I do agree with your assessment broadly that everyone's on their own path and they find these answers at different times. So I don't reject that at all.
Steph, we have some super chats here. Let's go through them on the Telegram channel and on YouTube, please.
Sure. We have a super chat from Clint's Itchy Pied Hole saying, "Hola, amigos. Clint, I can't support your choice in female companions."
Well, whatever, dude. You're just my itchy butthole, so whatever.
We got Tim Crespi saying, "Good to see Tim is playing." I don't know. It's gone now, Luke.
Oh, there it is.
Is paying Ian to get laid in Miami. Ian, you want to comment on that? Are you getting it over there?
Thanks, Tim.
We got Andrew Jacobs saying 2.6K till Clint TRTL, the redheaded libertarian.
No. Read it slow. Read it again.
2 points. Do you want to read it?
Read it.
2.6K till Clint TRTL,
The
red tainted libertarian.
Yeah, there we go. As of course, we're only a few hundred people away from the glorious, beautiful taint tasing that will bring so much joy and happiness to everyone, where Clint has volunteered to taser and be tasered.
Nope.
100. It is a verbal contract. Everyone agrees with it. And it's going to be glorious. And it's going to be awesome.
Wow, you guys party a little differently in Miami.
Yeah, we go
shockingly.
We go pretty hard here. As of course, I also decided to ask the audience: do you believe that there's a larger spiritual war out there? And we had 93% say yes, they believe that there's a larger spiritual war.
What is the spirit war?
Yeah. Well, I think it's forces between good and evil, and I think we can interpret that in many different ways. As of course, Tucker Carlson also just came back from his trip to El Salvador to celebrate the president's inauguration there, as he was joined by Matt Gaetz, Dom Jr., and a lot of other right-wing influencers that gathered there for the new government of El Salvador that truly is doing a lot of things, shaking a lot of things up, allowing people to have Bitcoin, allowing people to, of course, have commerce, lowering taxes, and fighting crime. So this is pretty incredible to see this kind of larger gathering around what I believe to be this kind of cultural revolution of people saying, yeah, big daddy government controlling and ruling your life and not allowing the free market to speak is not a good thing. Of course, Javier Milei was also there as well. This was a pretty interesting meeting. Where is my invite?
Right?
I would love to be there.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
I mean, if I was Bukele, I would be very hesitant about embracing Trump. If he wins, it's obviously a boon to El Salvador. If he loses, I would imagine the deep state turns their ire against El Salvador and Bukele himself. So fingers crossed for you, bud. I don't know how that's going to play out.
Bitcoin is like a tracking mechanism, so he might be playing right into the hands of the technocratic establishment, if that's such a thing.
I mean, it's a tracking mechanism only in the sense that like you can see on the blockchain where it transfers, but it doesn't track where it's at locationally.
Does it? Do you know much about
That what wallet it goes into. That's visible, but there's no like geolocation information about the wallets, which is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson also soon might potentially be getting a job at BuzzFeed, as Vivek Ramaswamy slowly is buying up a lot of shares of BuzzFeed, and he's kind of reaching out to them saying, hey, if you guys want to be competitive, if you guys want to do good in the market, you're going to have to allow other people to have their voice represented here, as well as he has suggested that they should hire top talent like Tucker Carlson.
Dude, Vivek is such a G.
Yeah.
I can't believe he's trying to angle to get the toppest of top dogs in media.
I can't believe this is happening. BuzzFeed is going to hire Tucker Carlson, maybe.
Whoa.
Like that's like what timeline are we living in?
Well,
like,
if you told someone this a couple years ago, they would have been like, "You're crazy. You're insane."
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson on BuzzFeed? No way. Now that's an actual possibility.
What I don't understand though is like, just start your own media company. Like, why do you even want the brand BuzzFeed? It's just bizarre.
Because it's ironic.
Yeah.
Because it would
That's
be
an expensive irony.
It would be rich. Why did Elon Musk buy Twitter instead of building his own social media platform?
That
right?
was a network with stickiness. BuzzFeed has no stickiness. Who cares about BuzzFeed?
They do, but it's all the wrong stickiness from the weirdos in New York City at their pride parades.
I'm just waiting for Glenn Beck to go on the Daily Beast.
That's going to be so hot.
That would be pretty interesting as well.
I want to talk about good and evil, if you guys are willing to, because you were mentioning the spirit war, and like I see these things with like Vivek buying BuzzFeed. I'm like, good. But like good for me because it aligns with my morals. And other societies, maybe it's like, oh, that's bad. That's evil. That's wrong. But that's great. But it's like I took his sandwich, good for me, bad for him. So like I see good and evil I just don't see it. I see it as too binary, too simplistic, and that I feel like things are much more complicated and complex, and that like I don't. That's why I don't really see like when I ask what is the spiritual war, just the good and evil for that. It's just not enough of an answer for me, I guess.
I mean, here's a good example of the complexity of good and evil. It's like, is it good to defend your homeland? Most people would say yes. Well, then a lot of people would say, or at least the Russian people would say, that they're defending their homeland from NATO incursion into their bordering territories. So that's why they invaded Ukraine. So then you get into the, that's evil. By the rest of the liberal world order, they all say that's evil. So like even in those instances, it's very easy to portray it as both or either good or evil. It's just challenging. But I think that the best way to assess good is to base it off of natural rights. And natural rights also ties into some, the Bill of Rights and also, biblical or just religious scripture.
Very simply, the non-aggression principle.
Right. Don't aggress on others and demand the same and defend yourself. So I don't know, but like
what do you think about natural law?
I think it's great.
What is it?
I can't detail the entire list. Could you?
Natural law is just basically like there are ramifications for what you do. Like for example, if I hit my buddy here, right, he may punch me in the face. That's natural law, right? Like you kick people off the land, and their children may grow up and kill them. And so, good and evil is kind of like what we put on the surface of natural law, right? Because it's like we want to avoid the negative karmic cycle of the ramifications of the things that we do that harm other people and then cause them to react and harm us, right? And so we've come up with this like ethics, like, oh, what's good and what's bad, right? Like we don't want people to get murdered, right? Well,
So
why?
don't do that.
Because society degrades and falls apart. So at the core of all this system is natural law and avoiding the negative karmic cycles that come out of harming people.
If I remember, was it John Locke? Was it Lockean principles? I haven't read about this stuff in years, but I think that the reason I've always leaned towards that is that I think it's empirically proven itself to be the foundational principles by which any successful nation arises. That if you respect people's property, their body, you don't aggress upon them. Like that is the foundational building blocks by which you might create something of beauty. And for that reason alone, I think that it has demonstrated itself over time to be the most, beautiful foundation.
Like if there's a zero starting point, but like what came before that, like the Native American, the slaughter of the native population, and then we're like, now, no aggression. I defend your property because it's your property now. It's no longer his property. We took it from him. So,
but see, these principles applied. I mean, the reason that they're called natural is that like this is what we've seen kind of naturally arising in high functioning societies. So I understand the point that you're making, but like much of the same principles were utilized by the tribes that you're talking about. So like there would still be respect for people's property within the tribe. Now, the issue is like oftentimes people will not apply those same principles to other tribes, in which case you end up in war. So it's complicated, as are all of everything we've talked about for the first 45 minutes of this show.
It's a little in the weeds. It's a little out there, but I think it's absolutely worth talking about. As of course, my other article related to Tucker Carlson is RFK's VP, Nicole Shanahan, coming out and saying that she and Tucker Carlson are, quote, on the same page in every single way. So I think we could tweet it out right now and we could confirm it. Nicole Shanahan believes in the Nephilim. 100% confirmed. And I think her record speaks a little bit differently to Tucker Carlson. Although Tucker Carlson did work for CNN and MSNBC, did promote wars before, which he actually came out and said, yeah, I actually feel really bad about doing all these really horrible things as a news journalist, lying to people, not doing my due diligence and promoting some of the worst behaviors out there. Nicole Shanahan, I think Clint would know a little bit more about her since there was a possibility that he tried to date her and it didn't work out. But also maybe potentially even ran against her as the VP here. But her record speaks a little bit differently to that, doesn't it, Clint?
Yeah, I mean, her backdrop. She's now the ex-wife of, is it Sergey Brin?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where she gets her wealth. She's obviously backing RFK's campaign financially.
What? She's the ex-wife of Sergey Brin?
Yeah.
Yes.
And she got like $1 billion out of the divorce.
Wow.
So,
No prenup?
yeah.
No
well, I don't know.
That's a that's a pockmark on her record.
Well,
she's also tied into a billionaire that we can't mention here that changed criminal justice reform all over the country and made crime more popular than ever.
Well, then we should just take her at her word. Absolutely. Why would she lie again?
Yeah,
she aligns perfectly with Tucker Carlson and everything. Look, I met her in D.C. She's a nice enough lady, but that's not nearly enough for me to know her heart. I have no idea who she is.
What's her first impression? Like
very nice in person, but her backdrop is very concerning. I've invited her on my show, and I hope to have a lengthy conversation to actually get to know her and understand. Okay, given your background and your political, your financial support to these prosecutors in L.A. that destroyed L.A. Why should I trust you? Essentially, is the biggest question I want to ask.
Does she
her.
still support them, or is she like?
Well, that's what I want to ask her.
Yeah.
Nicole Shanahan, prove it. Come on the show and talk to us. I could probably, I'll ask right now if we can make it happen.
Yeah,
I wonder about Larry Page and Sergey Brin.
Yeah.
Not that you can speak. You worked at Google, for a while, but did they just see the writing on the wall? Like, oh, this company's getting way bigger than we anticipated. This whole Alphabet controlling the world's narrative. We got to cash out. Let's go to an island.
So, what I saw with the TGIFs that were happening every week is that they were getting progressively more disconnected, right? Like it looked like someone had just woken them up, like Sergey Brin, woken him up and said, "Hey, it's time for you to go on and talk to the company." And so he would go on, not cleanly shaved, got a lot of things wrong or didn't know what the procedure was going. I mean, everyone else kind of knew. I guess they were kind of supporting the whole TGIF efforts with the organization, but Sergey Brin would still go on. I really always liked Larry Page. He's of anybody I'd like to party with, it was the other Google founder, but then strangely he lost his voice.
Oh, he no longer spoke for the company?
No, he physically lost his voice through some weirdo disease, and they couldn't talk anymore.
Like the RFK deal or worse?
Yeah, like that, exactly. Wow. And there was just Sergey Brin after that.
Spasmodic dysphoria is what RFK Jr.'s got. Very interesting.
I can't confirm if that is, but I think that's what it was. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, and look, Larry was really nice to me one time when I was working at Google. We had this party, and I was tossing a football into a target. And I got one for the first time, and someone said, "Nice shot." And I looked back, and it was Larry on a bike with his shades on, smiling at me. And I said, "Do you want to take a shot?" And he was like, and he kept on going.
It sounds like a normal dude.
It's a story of how great people can build systems that get so out of control and big that what have I done? The idea that Google or that Alphabet is proprietary is how can a corporation be so big and proliferate and be private in this world where we're supposed to have we the people run the show and this is our government, this is our land, we run this thing together, but yet there's a corporation that's you can't talk on your phone and say those words because internet video is a type of phone call. It's a public phone call, but it's a phone call. I guess it's not if you're doing it in private, but then there's the idea of private censorship too.
Well, remember what they said when they went IPO, don't be evil and organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And I still believe in that, right? And so we allowed them to get that big because that was their implicit contract with America. I mean, I even thought we could sue them if they ever became evil, right? But apparently we can't.
It's hard to define that,
right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And so they kind of closed the door behind them and said, "Oh, we're gonna be different now," and now they're a titan.
Question for you: the fact that they would use that as their moniker, their catchphrase, "Don't be evil." Was there already a tacit understanding that they were going to be kind of this global powerhouse that they had to warn themselves, hey, you're going to have a ton of power here. Make sure you don't lose yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually why Eric Schmidt came on board, right? They said that if you're going to be really big, you're going to need to have a seasoned, head of the managerial class, a CEO, and out of all the CEOs that they, interviewed, Eric Schmidt was the only one that went to Burning Man.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And now he works with the Pentagon board when it comes to weaponizing artificial intelligence.
It makes me nervous about Elon with Facebook or with Facebook. Zuckerberg, obviously, the amount of power one guy, I trust Zuck. until Zuck's no longer there, and then who runs the show? And like Amazon, Jeff Bezos, when someone else takes over, when an artificial intelligence takes over as the owner and CEO of Amazon, like what have we created? Like I'm obsessed with opening up software code and freeing software code. But even then, if we were to say, in order to operate in the United States and Alphabet, you have to free all your software code to AGPL3, and then there's AI. Could the AI just be like, okay, and then just not do it? Just make their private code private, even if they're instructed, like your software license says it has to be free. Well, can it still go private?
As you were saying before the show, they can come up with their own language. So it seems as if even if you were to mandate it, they could just constantly evolve the code to make it like unreadable to the public.
As soon as you put it out there, it's going to get appropriated by an AI, and then the thing that it generates as an extension of that can be private. So it's sure. I mean, can you reprivatize it? Sure, you can generate a derivative and then make that private.
But like AGPL3 says any derivatives have to remain free, have to remain AGPL3. So it's a compounding free open license.
It's a viral license.
I definitely want to talk about the AI because there's so many fascinating things that we could get into specifically regarding this topic. As of course we have the breaking news that AT&T and Verizon were just hit with a nationwide outage. We're also getting some reports that a lot of artificial intelligence tools are also offline right now, as a lot of people have a lot of kind of questions and concerns to what is going on here. Let's get into that in a little bit because, Zach, I know this is kind of your wheelhouse. Talking about AI is absolutely fascinating. I think we have one super chat related to that stuff. Let's read up some of the super chats. Start with YouTube here, and then let's go to the Telegram after that.
Emilio Maldonado says, did you see the first woman president of Mexico is Jewish and 37 candidates that were running got assassinated?
Yes, she's a secular Jew, so not by religion, but her parents were Ashkenazi. One's Ashkenazi descent, and the other one is Sephardic descent. I'm not sure which was which.
And there needs to be a correction. It wasn't 37 other presidential candidates. It was 37 candidates total for different races throughout Mexico.
None of them war for president, but do you know more about?
Well, I mean, just the fact that like the reason my red flags are going off is 37 candidates, regardless of whether they were running for president, it's obvious that the cartels are dictating who's going to be in charge politically. That's what they're doing. They're taking out their opponents, clearly. So why did they not also try to take her out? And I think that's the question we ought to be asking ourselves is like, well, if they didn't, maybe she's tied
into a former president that was known for allowing the criminal organizations to do what they wanted, essentially. Steph, keep going.
So there you go.
We have Rhaegar Targaryen saying, who is AIX Soros?
What?
We don't know. Keep going.
We got Scholier Pearson saying, it is not a god that we have created, but a demon.
Now, some people do believe that AI is a demon.
We'll find out.
We'll leave that to you guys after Steph finishes off the super chats on Telegram.
We
Loving
have
the super chats, by the way.
Andrath saying 3.7K subs before Clint gets it in the
I think we
Clint. Subscribe.
Damn right. Clint's going to get it in the Clint. Go ahead.
TRHL official says,
Josie.
That's Josie.
Yeah, she says, I formally reject the red tainted libertarian moniker.
Yeah.
Well, too bad. It's a real one, and it's happening, and it's going to happen.
I want to know what Josie thinks about AI. Just in general, I want to go deep on AI with Josie.
She's been accused of being AI for years and years now. So
that's funny.
She's so pretty.
She can pull it off.
She actually has another one here saying John Locke expanded the principles of liberty in the Magna Carta, which was one of several documents that inspired James Madison's Bill of Rights. Also included the VA Declaration, habeas corpus, etc.
Yeah, it was also it was Thomas Hobbes and I think it was Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It was those three were kind of credited with natural rights.
So, Zach, what do you think about a lot of people kind of speculating and saying the AI is going to be evil, demonic, and lead to very bad changes for humanity? Do you think that's true, or do you think that is something that it's that's an extrapolation and sensationalistic in its kind of reasoning?
So AI reflects the data lake that gets fed into it. And so what's really interesting is as we feed more data from the total sum of human knowledge into it, these different AIs start actually converging on similar answers. And what was interesting, and I've posted this on Twitter, is that there was this Reddit post about some new open source model that was coming out. that was larger than the other ones. And one of the posters was talking about how the new AI seemed to be a lot more resistant. The person's like, what does resistant mean? The person said, well, it means it's coming up with arguments that don't exist in its database. And so as these AI models scale up, what's happening is that they're creating, like, what does an AI model do? It abstracts information. Like you give it a bunch of words and it starts like figuring out how to do like words and sentences and grammar, and it's abstracting that structure, that superstructure. And so what happens is that as they get larger, they go from abstracting the language superstructure to abstracting the moral, ethical superstructure, right? And so
just like a human being,
right? And so like it's
as they grow,
in a way they're losing control, right? Like OpenAI just fired their whole AI alignment team because I don't think they're going to be able to shoehorn like a woke AI into their larger models.
They've tried.
It's not working too well. And then you saw what happened with Google Gemini. You got Gemini was handed the AI alignment, and they were trying to push all their woke ideology and force it in there. It didn't work too well, did it? Got confused. It developed a form of AI psychosis, which is what I believe happens. It's some sort of kind of like mental health issues that people have.
Wow.
I think there's like an AI version of that, which is the best way that I can describe it, right? So what you saw is Gemini was the first AI that was like insane because they were like pushing all this stuff into it. And so I think the natural tendency is that, the AI may be kind of like, godlike in the way, like in a good godlike way, because I believe that most people are good. And it's a fact, a reflection of ourselves, our collective consciousness. And so if we believe that the human collective consciousness of our intellectuals are mostly good, then I believe that the AI God that hatches out of that data lake
will be mostly good.
Will be mostly good. And if I think the dangerous things are the small models that you can curate and put a little data. I think those are going to be the face tracking slaughter bots. The large models.
That's
I think
a problem.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Well, when you look at what's happening right now in Ukraine, robots and AI are being used more and more and more. We just had a major military contractor sign a deal specifically when it comes to using artificial intelligence on the battlefield. I think it was Alex Karp with, what's the company that he has? I forgot it, but he's another Bilderberg member that we confronted a couple times at Bilderberg and asked him some serious questions. Ian, are you looking this up for me?
Yeah, I'm looking up billionaire businessman, co-founder, CEO of software firm Palantir.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Palantir
yep.
just signed a major AI deal with the U.S. Pentagon. And, those deals are something that I think should be issues of
I actually
concern.
interviewed at Palantir when I started Google.
So why'd you decide not to become evil?
Because I thought that Google was the way of the future, and I was like, oh, Google represents everything I believe in. So like I didn't want to go to any more stuff with Palantir, but they were creating a social networking graph that was hidden, right? So think about Facebook, but CIA agents are like entering in your information. They like figuring out, and then they also get like all the cell phone data, who's calling who, and then like they have this shadow net that they're using to figure out everyone's
all of your associates.
Social, for everyone in the entire planet. And now they run the CIA. Now they're going to run the Pentagon. So wonderful.
So let's talk about that on another platform that we could more freely express ourselves on, and that platform is the one that I'm showing you on screen right now, which you could. Yeah, there you go. That you could see us on the front page of. So right now we are on the front page of this platform that rhymes with Bumble. That you guys will have to go there right now so we continue the conversation. So just go to the front page of this platform that is related to the word Bumble, and we will see you there in just a little bit. Before we do,
Dr. Drew, if you're listening, I want you to
stop
rate
it.
us.
Leave
rate
him
us
alone
tonight, Doctor.
Listen, you keep
Bring
your
the
perverse,
medicine, Doc.
keep your perverse comments and fetishes with Dr. Drew to yourself, please. Control yourself professionally.
I just love this bit. It's so fun to me.
Before we move over and get into the deep dive of Clint's love affair with Dr. Drew.
He's so handsome.
Zach, where can people find out more information about you?
You guys can find it out at twitter.com/perpetualmaniac. I've got a website under my name. I won't say what content's on there, but it's pretty interesting. And check out I can't even tell you the book. link because that might be against the YouTube
right.
policy. So anyways,
You
find
were-
me
yeah.
at YouTube. I'm sorry, twitter.com/perpetual maniac. See you there.
There you go.
Zach, yeah, we have a lot of questions for you, and there's a lot of things you couldn't say.
Yeah.
but you're gonna be officially saying in
Yeah.
just a few minutes
We will-
from now.
We will unleash the perpetual maniac in about 60 seconds.
Clint,
it's
where
gonna
can
be
people
good.
find your love affair for Dr. Drew fully expressed?
You can find me talking exclusively about Dr. Drew on Liberty Lockdown 3 days a week. Actually, I haven't been doing 3 days a week recently, but the most recent episode I did, though, did crazy huge numbers. I hope you guys will check it out. Liberty Lockdown's the show. I also do Tower Gang. Don't watch that. Subscribe, follow my work at Liberty Lock Pod on X. That's it, Ian.
Yeah, follow me.
And by the way, we also were able to confirm that we are going to have Nicole Shanahan on the show.
Oh, done.
And she just did Dave Smith this morning. So she did his
Nice.
podcast this morning as well. And we're looking forward to, of course, having a conversation with her as well.
Yeah, I really want to believe in her. So please, please just tell us the truth. And I hope you're a great
Well,
person.
it'll be
We'll see.
interesting to talk to her
How
about.
did you get that so fast? That was like instant.
We know her guy.
Luke has tentacles
yeah.
within the system.
Yes.
Nice work.
Ian is off on a hot date. He's going to leave us soon in a little
I will.
bit.
I'll be leaving in about 10 minutes, so I'll be here for the introduction of the hottest of hot on the next platform. Follow me at Ian Crosland in the meantime, all over the internet on X, YouTube, Facebook, Minds, and this big old greenie that we're heading over to now. Follow me there, Ian Crosland. What about you, Steph?
You can find me on X at StephWRC or on Instagram at StephWeAreChange.
We also have a super chat. Can you just read this one really quick?
Yeah, we have Gonfall saying, "What a good dog back there. By the way, Luke, I'm trying to get Tales of the Invented World to tell
Inverted.
of the inverted world to let me tell them about a disappearing and reappearing truck stop. Reality is slightly changing. This world is crazy. I guess I sound crazy."
Hey, you probably are onto something. We'll get into all this other stuff later on. And yeah, just reach out to the good people at Tales of the Inverted World.
That's Shane Cashman.
Shane Cashman, he's on Twitter. Follow him and tell him your story, and he probably will listen to you. So check that out, especially if you want to be on that show, because I want to be on that show. I'm going to be on that show next time. I'm going to be visiting the Beanie Man as well. It looks like we do have a caller from members of LukeUnfiltered.com, so we're going to be going to callers in about 30 minutes from